everybody, it's Lucy from Lucy Licorice Art. I'm figuring things out as I go here. The last couple of videos I had captions, and with some encouragement from friends and family, this video will have a voiceover. This is my first time voicing over a video for my drawings, so bear with me if I'm terribly awkward. I'm starting out by making a basic outline of the body here, defining the chest and using circles to help me get the chest more even and natural looking. The way I plan out and draw people is not a tried and true method for everyone, but it's a method that I've developed for myself by learning from other artists and through practice, and it works pretty well for me, so I just stick with it.
Staring at herself in the mirror on the restroom door.
Two things I always have before starting are a reference picture and a thumbnail or a game plan. I make sure that I have the basic idea of what I'm doing in my head, and then I find reference pictures of poses and people that fit my vision or my rough sketch that I've done. My ideas always change as I go, and I often put together many reference pictures. But having something to look at helps to get the anatomy correct and to focus your idea. Most artists use reference pictures until they've had years and years of consistent experience and practice. It's not cheating, and it improves your art and makes it easier.
In her head, that mirror what she's heard before. All the things they said to hold her back, they never seem to leave her head and tend to keep her mind at war. All the things they said to hold her back, they keep her locked inside of all the times when she's been hurt before. Her eyes are swollen as she tries to hold her tears back.
These two drawings are for a series that I'm working on that are based loosely off of Art Nouveau style and more specifically working with Alphonse Mucha. However, I'm putting a very modern twist on it by drawing diverse body types and ethnicities. A lot of Alphonse Mucha's pieces consistently had very pale skin, sort of an ideal body type, and they were a little bit more exposed, and that some of them had a lot less clothing than I'm drawing here. All of my pieces will also have these like Roman modern swimsuit fashion dresses that I've kind of designed and compiled based off of some references that I put together. They're sort of like a modern play on, the Roman showy dress that Mucha pretty much always put his subjects in.
All the things they said to hold her back, they keep her locked inside of all the times when she's been hurt before. Her eyes are swollen as she tries to hold her tears back.
Through hours of study in my fine arts degree and studying other artists and methods in my own time, I know that there are probably better ways to align and draw the face, but in the past they haven't always worked out super well for me. I find it easier to start with the jaw and then line up everything else from there, starting with the lips, then the nose, then using the bridge of the nose to line up the eyes, and so on. Once I have everything where I want it, I erase some of the lines to make it more stylized and less busy. Keeping all of those construction lines would just be too much. My shading will do a lot of the work later on when I add it, and I won't have to suggest as many of those lines. can see that I went back and forth a little bit here because one of her eyes is supposed to be closed, and that isn't something that I've drawn super often before. I tried finding lots of different references to try to make the eye look more realistic. A lot of the time when you close one of your eyes, even when you're just winking, the rest of your face sort of scrunches up. But in this drawing, I wanted it to be more stylized and more idealistic. So instead, I just went for her eye squinting, and that was it. Can you tell what ethnicity she is so far? So I always start by adding the hairline to help me decide where the bangs will go. And with her hair in general, I went back and forth trying to decide what I should give her. This girl is supposed to be African American, and I wanted to give her a hairstyle that would match her ethnicity. I decided on twists or braids and found a reference to help me see how the hair lays. Some details like the eyelashes and the texture in the hair, I also wait to do until I'm doing my line work so that I'm not drawing the same lines over and over when they're bound to change. I had to approach this hair in a new sort of way because twists don't just fall like straight hair does. They bunch together and they're much thicker, so I had to figure out how they would lay and how they would overlap. I recorded how I start out drawing my people. I always start with the head size I want roughly and then use it to orient everything else, starting with the shoulders. lot of what I draw here and throughout the process is subject to change constantly depending on what I think of the reference photo and what I think makes sense, but it's nice to have a place to start. Drawing that boxy rib cage helps me place the chest. As I go, I'm constantly referring back to my reference picture and making adjustments. It's just much easier to fix mistakes as you go than to just completely start over all at once. Sometimes I also do that as well.
Day in, day out, it's the same road we're walking down. Same job, same town, 'cause we've been told.
I also found that taking a picture of your drawing as you go can help you to see it better, since when you're drawing on a flat surface, you see your drawing at an angle instead of straight on, and your perspective can be a little off. Taking a picture helps you step back in a sense and see the whole drawing all at once.
We've been told that's the way our world goes round. Walking on the grounds we've always known, stepping on the footprints in the snow. But when it melts, the other ways will show. We're gonna make the footsteps on our own. That life can wait just for a while. That life can wait. So take that.
You can see that every now and then the paper disappears and you can see my drawing pad underneath. That's because I'm picking up the paper and looking at it straight on to help me with my perspective.
So take that aside and just go on.
Jet planes in the night sky with you, getting high in the sunrise with you.
When you're drawing folds in clothes, references really help, and less is more. I play with the lines I add, and usually I end up erasing about half of them. Too many gets too busy, and just enough can show the fabric bunching or flowing.
With you, getting through all the bad times with you.
When I did my line art for this piece recently, I actually ended up only drawing very few of the lines that you can see I added here.
'Cause time moves on, and now you're gone. Oh, if only I could build a time machine, I'd come and get you. I can't forget you. I miss you, I miss you, I miss you all the time. I wish that you were mine. I miss you, I miss you.
One thing I also wanted to mention is that in all four of these pieces, the hands of these girls are not really shown. Now usually that would bother me because I feel like not drawing hands or feet is a little bit of a cop-out. But in this, it didn't really matter because the main focus was the body and their face and what was happening in the background, since I was echoing this Art Nouveau fancy geometric style.
I miss you all the time. I wish that you were mine.
tell what ethnicity this girl's supposed to be so far? You can see again my process of drawing the face and how I use the lines in the nose to decide where the eyes should go based on my reference picture. This girl is supposed to be Middle Eastern. I also ended up erasing her entire face after I drew it and redoing it just because after I finished, I stepped back to look at how big her head was compared to the body, and it needed to be resized. When I'm drawing the eyes, I usually wait to add the eyelashes until I'm actually doing the line work rather than just the sketch. Eyelashes are supposed to be wispy and few and far between, so waiting until you do the line work can help. Otherwise, they get really thick and bunchy. Again, I went and looked for a certain hairstyle that was pretty common for Middle Eastern women and tried to use that for my picture.
Staring at herself in the mirror on the restroom door. Voices in her head that mirror what she's heard before. All the things they said to hold her back, they never.
This part of the video isn't nearly as exciting as the first part, but I wanted to include it. Alphonse Mucha is famous in part for his elaborate geometric backgrounds that frame the subject. I mapped out each of the backgrounds for the subject that I'm drawing to help me orient it as I went. I'm not a big fan of measuring, and I'm certainly not super exact, but I try to get things even if I can. Otherwise, it can be a little distracting when things are all crooked.
Seem to leave her head and tend to keep her mind at war. All the things I said to hold her back, they keep.
I apologize for that remote that's right in the front of your view.
Her eyes are swollen as she tries to hold her tears back. Her hands are shaking and her palms are sweating as she says.
This piece will have the girl reflected right side up and upside down, as you can see me planning for. The piece will be about the waking world and the dreaming world of each person. That's why one of her eyes are closed.
I don't wanna listen to a word you say, telling me what I can become. And I've been looking forward to this day, the day I prove you right.
I used a piece of paper to help me decide where the figure will go, but as far as drawing it, I wait until I've made all of my geometric background designs, and then I use a light table to trace my character into the geometric background. Also, you may have noticed that I draw all of the girls onto a smaller piece of paper rather than this big large piece of paper all at once, and there's a few reasons for that. First of all, if I want to make a reflected image like this piece or the first one I did in my series, I can draw the girl once and then reflect her using a light table. Second, a huge piece of paper is pretty scary. That might sound stupid, but seeing a white blank space can make it really hard to just start drawing. And I think it's much easier to work with a smaller piece of paper to begin with, so that you're not bending it on accident and trying to reach and make your figure way too big or too small because of the paper size. Having one size of paper helped me to keep all the girls roughly the same size. I want this series to be fairly cohesive, so making them a similar size was somewhat important to me. This piece that you see here is actually based off of death and the 5 stages of grieving. The layout is based off of a less common piece of Alphonse Mucha, but I really liked the idea of using it for the 5 stages of grief. It took a lot of planning and measuring to get the circles all roughly the same size and the same distance apart. As you can probably tell, I'm not the greatest with a compass, but it sure helps to get things more even. Also, thank you if you're still watching so far. I know this video got a little bit long, but I wanted to include a lot of my sketching process. It might be interesting for some people to see, and possibly helpful. Coming close to the end of the video here, so I wanted to thank everyone who's still watching for still watching, and I hope that my voiceover wasn't too cringy and painful for my first attempt. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed it. if you want to see more of these videos with voiceovers. I should be posting my next video with one of these pieces being colored in soon, so keep an eye out for that. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see y'all later.